Right, we'll get started then. We'll add people as they come along. And also this info session is being recorded. So if people miss a little bit, they can go back to it and check it later, as can anyone who misses the event, and also use and maybe want to recap on some information given. Thank you very, very much for joining us tonight. It's really appreciated. Let's talk about the Hip Hop Bursary in Scottish. Okay. Sarah Jane, can you mute yourself, please? I'll just do it. Let's start with a little bit of housekeeping. If you can make sure that your Zoom is on mute at the moment, that'd be much appreciated, so everyone can hear the information that we're providing and helping out with tonight. There will be a Q&A at the end of each question and answer session, so please, if you have any questions, keep them to the end, or if you're shy, type them in the chat and we'll get round to them in the end as well. Also, to let you know that this meeting is now recorded, and it's recorded for people to access at a later date so that they can find the information we're talking about tonight, which is the Scottish Hip Hop Bursary. So let's talk about that. We'll start with a little introduction from me first. My name is Steg G. I'm a hip hop artist, music producer. I'm also the development manager of Surrey G Radio, which I'm in at the moment. I've been involved in hip hop since the mid-90s, and I've been part of over 50 commercial releases that have been made available. I performed with some of the greatest artists in hip hop, your 50 Cents, Eminems, etc. Loads of your Scottish artists I've helped to produce or performed with. Loads of UK artists I've helped to support and work with as well. So I've lots of experience in hip hop and lots of experience in the community, and they are two things that really work well for the Scottish Hip Hop Bursary. And I want to talk a wee bit about that from my perspective before I pass on to my colleagues, Mobile and Jenny. For me, this is an excellent opportunity to get our underrepresented music more established, to help nurture new artists, to help Scotland and Scottish artists find their voice in hip hop. Hip hop's the biggest genre on the planet, but Scottish artists don't seem to access the opportunities so far that are available. We hope that things like the Hip Hop Fund and the confidence that artists will get through things like this will help take Scottish hip hop to the next level. And when we say hip hop, we don't just talk about rapping. We're talking about b-boy and b-girl and the dance element. We're talking about the graffiti art element. We're talking about the filmmaking, the documentation element too. So there's lots of elements to the Scottish Hip Hop Fund, and that's why it's a very, very exciting opportunity. Anyway, I think I'll just pass you on to my colleague Mobile, and you can introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Mobile. I'm an artist manager based in Glasgow. Manage a roster of 4 acts. Outside of that, I also creative produce, co-founder of the Standard platform, which aims to shine a light on artists who we feel are underrepresented within the wider music landscape in Scotland. I think the Hip Hop Fund is something that has been needed for so long, and I'm really excited to be a part of and be part of supporting artists who are going to be receiving the fund as well. As Steg said as well, it isn't just about rappers, it isn't just about musicians. I don't have a background, I don't make music myself, and I think that it's important to support people who are around the artists or that want to work alongside artists as much as we do the artists, so that in the future we have a very strong, solid music industry that hip hop is a part of in Scotland. And that's me.
Okay, thank you very much, Mobile. And Jenny, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yep. Hi, everyone. My name's Jenny. I work for Creative Scotland as Place Partnerships and Communities Officer. So this fund is part of a body of work that Creative Scotland has been developing over the last few years to support hip hop in Scotland, having recognised that it is an underfunded art form. So quite early on, we partnered with Sunny G Radio Up to Standard and 644 Studios. And just to say, Casey, who is going to be here speaking about them tonight, is unfortunately got COVID, so isn't here right now. So we partnered with them early on to establish what the need was in the sector and really try to build a fund that was of and for the hip hop community. And it's just, been a pleasure to work on. I'm really pleased that we confirmed a second year's worth of funding from the National Lottery, which supports this fund. Thanks, Doug. Oh, and just to say, Doug, you did say about captions. There's a link. If you need captions, there's a link in the chat.
Thank you very much, Jenny. The captions for anyone who maybe misses some of it is in the chat to go and check that as well. Great. During the course of the info session today, if you do have any questions, put them in the chat and we'll recap them at the end of our session today, which should be about 7 o'clock. So without any further ado, let's talk through the application. A lot of people are scared about applications. This application has been helped and developed by myself, Casey, Mobo, and Jenny to be as friendly as possible. But it still requires information, and let's talk about the application. So I'm going to pull it up on the screen and we can have a look at it. Okay, great. So you should all be able to see the Scottish Hip Hop Bursary application form on the screen. You can download this at the moment from the Sunny G website, which is sunnyg.org. Just look for the link at the top that says Scottish Hip Hop Bursary, and you'll get the application. You'll get some FAQs there, and you'll also get some guidance notes too. And this video will be there tomorrow afternoon for you to look back and see as well. So the first bit's pretty self-explanatory. We need to know your contact details. We need to know a little bit about who's applying for the fund. A lot of our communication is going to be through email, so make sure that you put the correct email address in there and maybe use an email address that you check fairly regularly, and not just that obscure one that you use for your competitions on the internet. For us, it's good to know how people find out about these resources so we can make sure that people who don't know about it can be targeted a bit better in the future. Knowledge is power. So tell us how you found out about the bursary. Did you find out about it through Up to Standard or Sunny G or 644, or did a pal tell you? We'd really like to know that. That will help us better position this fund for people in the future as well. So this is some of the main parts of the application coming up. And a lot of people do get scared by applications, and I've been there myself, and I'm still a little bit like that too. But just have your plan in mind and take it from there. For example, your activity summary. Please summarise, please let us know in 50 to 100 words, which is not a lot, the activity which you are seeking funding for. So for example, your activity may be to record a song and publish a music video. Tell us that. Your activity may be to run a series of workshops or an event. Tell us about the event. Tell us about the workshops. Tell us about your activities in that section there. We'd like to know when your activity starts. We'd like to know when you want to actually have your activity finished by, completed by. And we also wouldn't like to see applications from things that have started already. So we're looking to fund new activities, things that maybe you've wanted to be supported or not had the funding to do, things that will help you to develop as an artist in any facet of hip hop to the next stage of your professional development. So that's different for everyone. And everyone's going to have a different project that they've got in mind to help them get to where they need to go within hip hop. So please note, applications will not be considered for activities already started. So again, this is for new activities. This fund's here to make new things happen within Scottish hip hop, and to also encourage new artists as well, alongside established artists too. So the amount of funding, it can be up to £1,500 funding for your activity or your project. It can't be less than 500. And also try and round up your figures. Don't put in 42 pence. Round it up or round it down. Keep it to the nearest pound when you're putting your figures in. It doesn't need to be too detailed. too detailed like that. But it needs to be more of a educated view of what it's going to cost you to do the project. So here, what is the principal focus of your application? Is it to research? Is it to find out what stops, like for example, what stops Scottish hip hop from exploding, or other lines of research? Is it for your own professional development, meaning to learn a new skill or to complement the skills that you've already got? Is it to make new art? Is it to buy equipment that's going to help you make new art? Is it for a residency or an event, or something else? You can let us know. And we look forward to finding out all your suggestions. What art form is it? Again, hip hop being a multifaceted genre, beyond music. I'm just inviting people into the meeting as we continue. Hip hop being multifaceted. Let us know, is it a visual art you're doing? Is it like a spray paint, or is it a music video? Is it music? If it's a music video, then you're going to be visual art, and you're going to take music. Is it part of a wider theatre production? Is it part of a film? Is it going to be shown somewhere? Tell us about that. Is it a dance event? Or is it multi-arts events where you're encompassing maybe all of the above? Have a think and let us know. There's all these are good places to let us know what exactly you want to do. And again, we're not looking at any of these avenues as any lesser than others. They're all equally important to the fund. So just be honest about what you're doing and what you want to do, and let us know there. It's really important for us to know that you're actually doing hip hop. So we want to see where you're at with it, where you're actually started, where you're more established. So we're looking for previous examples of work within hip hop. And you can attach links to songs or videos or podcasts or links to photographs or art, etc. Whatever you've got. And if you've just got a couple of demos that you've just worked on with your friends in the house, then send them into. We want to know where you're at and why and how you need support. So let us know that. Great. So describe 2 previous projects. Again, this can be, you went to the studio with your friends, you hired it out, you wrote the songs, you bought a beat, you recorded the song. Tell us about that. Tell us about the process. It could be putting on an event to promote that song. Tell us about that. Tell us about the process. We want to find out that you're engaged within music making. We want to find out you're engaged within creativity. We want to find you're engaged within hip hop. And again, this fund's to support people who are active and getting active within hip hop in Scotland. So in no more than 500 words, describe in detail the activity for which you are seeking support. Please be clear and concise and include the following. So tell us in detail what you're going to do. If it's a music video, elaborate on it. Tell us about the people involved. Tell us about your locations. Tell us about any props you might need. Again, 500 words seems a lot. It's not a lot once you start writing down what your ideas and what your visualization is actually going to be. So give a description of your activity and any outcomes or key stages. Key stages meaning you've produced a video and it's published on YouTube, or you've managed to get your demo recorded, or you've managed to get your first microphone to record your songs, or you've managed to get access to a venue to do your performance or to help other artists perform. These are all key outcomes or key stages. We'd like to see that in this part here. Tell us about how it will benefit you in your creative development. How will getting some funding support your creativity and your development in the sector? Is it going to give you confidence? Is it going to give you new skills? Is it going to give you resources that are going to help you to get new skills? Tell us about that. I know it's hard sometimes writing about yourself, but this is an important section. So put as much into this section as you can. Again, we're looking for no more than 500 words. 500 words might sound a lot, but again, once you start writing about these things like how it will affects your personal development and creativity, then you'll run out of words pretty quick. And also COVID tells you about that. If that's been an impact on you, has lockdown been a thing that slowed down your access to getting involved in creative pursuits within hip hop? Let us know that. Tells your ambitions, tells where you want to go within hip hop. Yeah, if you want to be involved in the graffiti scene or you're already involved in it, but you want to progress further, tells about that. If you want to learn a new skill as a dancer, tells about that. What are your ambitions? Where is it you want to really go ultimately with your hip hop progression? Again, no more than 500 words for that. So the Scottish Hip Hop Bursary does and will prioritise applications that address the following criteria. Support artists to sustain the practice following the impact of COVID-19. COVID-19 has affected everyone. There's not one person that's not affected negatively, really, especially artists, especially creatives. So tell us how it's affected you. And if it has affected you, we're going to use that to prioritise in the application process. We want to see small-scale projects that test out ideas, that try things out. That, you know what, there's no real risk here. You can go out and test the water here by making a video or writing a book about Scottish hip hop. You can test the water and see if this is a thing that's viable and maybe can grow into something more fruitful. You can get support from professional development, meaning you can seek mentorship, you can seek education from hip hop artists or engineers or whatever the genre requires to support your development. We're looking to support underrepresented artists and communities to develop the work within the genre of hip hop. I feel that's hip hop as a whole. It's very much underrepresented. That's why this whole Scottish Hip Hop Bursary is here. But yeah, if you're an artist and you live in a rural community and you've got less access to resources than someone in the Central Belt, so we see that as an underrepresented artist as well. There's different ways that people are all underrepresented. Like I said, and I see the genre is being underrepresented too. We want to support artists that do not have previous experience of receiving public funding. We want to encourage hip hop artists to access public funds in the future. We want people to go and get funding to make hip hop and not be scared to apply to funding bodies in the future. So that's why we want this process to be as straightforward as possible for people to access and learn from it as well. And we're here to support the development of hip hop in Scotland, which we love, and we see it flourishing, but it needs a little bit of support, and hopefully we can provide a little bit of that with this bursary fund. Please describe which of these criteria your project meets and how. So you could tick the boxes for a few of these. You might tick the boxes for all of these priorities. Again, every artist is going to be different. Every project is going to be different. But again, these are the priorities that we'll be looking for when we go and try and look to see what's came through in terms of the funding applications. This year, we're able to offer successful applicants the opportunity to have 1 hour mentoring with one of the 3 partner organisations, which is Sunny G, UP2STNDRD and 644. This is optional. You don't need to have a mentor. It's just an optional avenue for support for artists to have. The mentors are myself, being a hip hop artist, music producer, and also involved in media and radio. Casey, who's a music producer, unfortunately, Casey's not well with COVID tonight, get well soon, Casey. She's a radio host promoter and a co-founder of 644 Studios. And of course, Mobo Agoro, who's the talent manager and the head of UP2STNDRD as well. So if you feel that you would get anything out of having an hour's mentorship with any of these people, including myself, put a 1 to the artist you would like to prioritise the time for, and a 2 next to the next artist you wouldn't mind getting a little session with. Again, this is all up to you. You don't need to pick a mentoring session, but it's an option. It's an option that's there. This one's pretty self-explanatory. Have you previously received funding from this fund? Yes or no? If you have received funding previously, that doesn't necessarily mean you're excluded from getting funding again. We'd like to know that. We'd like to know why you're applying for funding again. Is it a different project? We'd need to really see that in the application form. This spooks a lot of people out, and through my experience, a lot of people get stuck at this part, the budget. Please provide a budget breakdown for your activity. How much will it cost to make what you want to happen? Detail on the total sum requested for your own financial contribution. There may be a project that you bring in and put some money to, because this Hip Hop Bursary will only cover some of the part of the project's costs. Please indicate if these are cash or in kind. And in kind means it's a service that you'll do, but it's got a cash value to it as well. We'll talk a bit more about that when we get to the guidance as well. If the cost exceeds 1,500, please include other sources of income. So if your music project to do your album is costing £2,000, you can get a maximum of 1,500 from the Hip Hop Bursary Fund. But tell us where the other 500 is coming from. Is it from your own savings? Is your granny going to give you? Have you worked hard to get it? Tell us where that's coming to match the need for your budget as well. Also, don't miss out anything. That would be my real advice to everyone applying. Look at all the costs. Is it costing you for your time, your electricity to do this project? Is it costing so-and-so to make the beat? Is it costing to hire the venue? Do the venue need staff for that activity? Really think it through and really cover the costs in this. And don't cut corners, because we'll possibly look at a fund that's cut corners. It's not viable, because you need the correct financial backing to make the correct things happen. So really look at your costings and make sure they're legitimate. Your income, where's this money going to come from? You can say that you're going to get, if it's a £2,000 project, £1,500 from the Hip Hop Bursary, and the other 500 from these other sources, whether that be your savings, etc., etc., etc. Again, like I say, you should include these to support your own work and those of any artists or collaborators involved in the application or the project within the application. We'll talk a bit more about that in the guidance in a moment, but you can also find the latest recommended rates of pay information via these websites here, from the Scottish Artists Union and the Musicians Union's rates of pay. So they're the kind of benchmarks where you want to look at paying yourself and paying people when you come to do your project. Your declaration, you hereby confirm that what you've wrote is accurate and it's correct. And if any issues happen, that you'll inform Sonny G straight away, so that we can help to support the issues or give you offer some guidance to get through whatever the issues may be. You sign it and you date it. You attach your supporting material. If you're a musician, that would be sending some music. If you're an artist, tell us about the art you've done. If you're a promoter, tell us about previous events. But definitely don't forget about the additional supporting material. These are the things that will bring your application to life and make it a real thing for the panel to look at. So again, just tell us what these previous pieces of work are. If they're a piece of art or graffiti mural, tell us about that. We prefer audio, video formats, the usual standard formats. We will do our best to open more exotic formats, but just make sure your files are there and they can be opened before you send them over with your application as well. Sonny G, ourselves, we will make sure that we process information and we do it in a way that's effective, that's efficient. We maintain privacy for everyone involved in the process. We only ask for the minimum information necessary, and this is in line with the Data Protection Act as well. We will share information on your application form with partners of the Hip Hop Bursary for the purpose of assessment. That will be myself, Mobile, Jenny and Casey, who will be looking at the applications as part of a panel who assesses the applications. We do keep the applications for 12 months for evaluation purposes. After that, they get destroyed. And so these are consent boxes to agree that your information gets kept. So please make sure you tick these boxes, are very important. Put a little signature, can be a digital signature, print your name, print your date, and then email your completed application to the Hip Hop Bursary at sunnyg.org. Okay, and that is a little rundown of the application. If there is any questions, just add them to the chat. We're going to open up for a Q&A in a little bit. But at the moment, I'm going to bring up where is it, my document? Let me find it. So here we go. I'm going to bring up the guidelines document, and my colleague Jenny will talk you through that. Are you okay, Jenny?
Yeah, all good.
Great. Great.
I can't see the guidance up yet. I don't know if that's just me or anyone else.
It's probably not there yet. 2 seconds. Let me just stop share and start again.
Steg, see while you're doing that, could I quickly add something?
Of course you can, yep.
Something, when you were speaking about the actual fund and the money, I think anybody that's applying should definitely look into the Musicians Union artist rates and the Scottish Union artist rates, because us as creators, we oftentimes underprice ourselves as well. So I think that's something that we're going to be looking for, really making sure that you are, if you are collaborating with people, that you're actually paying them in the correct way as well. And you're also looking out for your own time as well. So yeah, the links at the bottom of that page are really important to look into.
Great, thank you very much, Mobile. Have you seen that yet, Jenny?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Is anyone mobile? Are you seeing the guidelines on screen? No.
Not yet. It's
okay, it says it's sharing. Okay. Because I'm sharing multiple things. Hold on. Okay, let me just open this up. Sorry about that, folks. Share. Okay, sorry about that, folks. I had too many windows open on my screen. Hopefully you have it now, Jenny.
Yeah, all good.
All good, thank you.
Great, so thanks so much, Doug. That was really helpful. I'm aware that obviously some of the guidance echoes what we've seen in the application form, so I'm not going to go through and just keep repeating things we've already heard, but I will go through and kind of highlight information that we've not covered. Specifically, I think the most useful thing is the exemptions and exclusions, because a lot of those mirror things that we see or saw last year coming up, and they also help just explain some of the types of creative projects that we can and can't fund. But just to cover this section briefly, so who can apply? Essentially anyone can apply as long as you're over the age of 16 and not in full-time education. If you are in part-time education, that's fine. It's just that the funding that you come in for can't be for anything that's involved in your studies. And we'll accept applications from individual artists and creative practitioners, and also collaborations and collectives. Obviously, it's not a fund for organisations. And if you are coming in as a collective, it will just one person would need to put their name under and obviously receive the funding into their bank account. Okay, so criteria. I mean, Steg, I think you covered this really, really well. So I'm not going to go back over those, but obviously at the end, if anyone's got any questions about how we look at those criteria and apply them to projects, then please just let us know. So exclusions. Okay, so the first few are quite simple. Applications won't be considered for activities that have already started or plan to start before the application deadline date. And as I've just covered, we can't award funding to students in full-time education. And we also can't award funding from this fund to academics or other education professionals that are looking to use the money as part of their professional, professional work. So for instance, if you're a teacher and you want to come in for funding for something that would be part of a course curriculum, either in a university or school, that unfortunately wouldn't be eligible. This one actually comes up quite a lot. So applications for capital costs to make adjustments to a private dwelling aren't eligible. So for instance, if you wanted to build a home studio, unfortunately, we're not able to fund that. That's because you're not able to use public funding to increase the value of a private dwelling. However, you can come in for the costs of equipment. So if there's some equipment that you want to use to help you develop your project that you would then go on to use for future projects, that can include some recording equipment, that's completely fine, but it can't be just, you can't use money in costs. Oh, I think someone's just come.
Oh, hey, I don't know if you can hear me or not.
Hiya, yeah. Are you back onto mute for now?
Yeah, of course. My bad.
That's okay. Sorry, I could hear like feedback in my own voice then now as well, also then, which was awful. Okay, next one. So organizations are not eligible to apply. I think we already kind of covered that. And applications, oh, sorry, Steg, you're going a bit quick. Thank you. So applicants who are applying to this grant, so you can't come into Creative Scotland funds for the same activity. So if you're aware of Creative Scotland's open fund and you are looking to make a larger application into that fund, that's completely fine. And we'd encourage you to do that. And I'd be more than happy to talk to you about that fund, but you can't come into that one and this for the same project. Okay, so these ones, next few, we've got a couple of examples to apply based on some of the issues we saw with applications last year. So the first one is about business development and marketing. So you can't come in solely for a project that's requesting business development or solely marketing costs. So for example, and we did see this sometimes last year, if you want to come in and all of your project money is going to a PR or marketing company to just promote your work, that's not eligible for this fund. We want to be seeing creative projects, and as part of your creative project, you can absolutely have a marketing budget, but we want to be funding creative activities. So for you to make things, we don't just want all the money to go straight to another company that are going to promote you. Similarly, you can't use the funding as seed money for a business startup. That's quite common with lots of public funding. And then the next one is applications that fund the production or documentation of work made solely for sale or commercial purposes are not eligible. However, this could be one element of a broader application. That's quite similar to the marketing costs. So we don't want to be funding like purely manufacturing or purely imagery for an album cover. But if you built those costs into a project, so we fund you as an artist to make music that then also gets made into something to distribute, like CDs, that's fine, but we don't want to be kind of covering just production costs. And similarly with documentation, we don't just want to be covering someone to take photographs of a project that's already happened. We want to be funding you to do that project, and then as part of that you might include a fee for a photographer. This one is about graffiti. So while I don't completely understand this, it might not be in the spirit of graffiti, because you're receiving public funding. If you're coming in for a graffiti project, you do need to make sure that you've got permissions from the buildings or locations that you intend to install your artwork at, and you'll just need to confirm that as part of your application. And then final one, if you're planning to use the funding to work outside of Scotland, for example, to develop a specific skill or record a specific studio, which we completely understand is valid, we would like to see how you will then bring that skill back to the wider Scottish hip hop community, either sharing that in terms of the work that you produce or in the way that you work with other artists. Okay, so we'll go on to fees. Steg, I know you talked a little bit about fees, but I'll talk a bit more about it. So you can absolutely apply for a specific bit of kit or equipment that will help you with your professional development. Just make sure, again, that that's not just all you come in for. We really want to know how that will contribute to your development and your creative project. and in the future. And this, I don't think we can emphasize it enough. Please make sure that you include fees for your own time and fees for those that you work with. So for example, if you're hosting a performance night, please ensure all the performers are paid. And if you're making a podcast or an album, or you're interviewing people for a film, and these are all things that we've seen previously, please make sure that everyone that's involved in those projects receives some kind of fee for their time. We'd like you to pay those people at industry rates, and as Mobo and Steg have both said, if you're not sure what those are, if someone isn't providing you with a quote of what they would normally charge people, then you can look at the Scottish Artists Union rates and also the Music Union rates. Now, if you want to go away and do a piece of like research or just kind of research and development proposal, something that's quite handy is on the Scottish Artists Union rates, they have residency rates, and that's if you were to go away, and like that means it's not so focused on final outcome. You want to go away and research something. The residency rates are a really good way for you to calculate how much you might pay yourself to go away for a week and just sort of focus on like making and creating, as opposed to say like performance rates, which you'll find particularly useful in the Music Union rates. So access support, there was a little bit about this in the budget that you would have seen. So this year, in addition to the funding that you come for your project, you can come in for access support. So access support are non-artistic costs that remove or reduce the barriers for you as an individual to deliver your project, and also for your project to be open to as wide a range as people as possible. So that could include your collaborators, participants if you're running workshops, and also audiences. Obviously, if you yourself need access costs, I'm sure you'll know what these are, but in terms of things for participants or things for audiences, you may want to consider as part of that sign language interpreters, translators for meetings, also additional budget for travel, if that's something that you or anyone that you're working with needs. That you can also come in for a percentage of any caregiving costs that you might have that would, if you couldn't cover them, prevent you from delivering this activity. So yeah, please do let us know if there's anything that you're not sure would be considered access support. You can send us an email and we can advise. Similarly, if you yourself need support just making the application, that's absolutely something that we can do. So again, you can just email us and get in touch and let us know what would suit you most in terms of your access needs to help you apply to this fund. Mentoring. So again, Steg kind of covered this in the application form. I'm not gonna go back over it again because I'd just be repeating Steg, but basically, yeah, it's not compulsory. It's an optional extra that we've developed for this year. And you can just put your first and second choice, and we'll schedule those sessions after we've confirmed all the successful applicants, and they can take place online or in person. And so the bursary amount you can go in for, you can apply for between £500 and £1,500. It doesn't happen very often, but the panel may offer an amount smaller than you've requested. That is largely if you've put in for costs that are ineligible or part of those exclusions. Sometimes we might still look to fund a project, but we might just have to remove one cost. In terms of timescale, the fund opened for applications on Thursday, the 27th of October. Hopefully everyone here knew that. And you've got 3 weeks to apply. So they must receive no later than Thursday, 17th of November at midday. We'll then meet roughly 2 weeks from that deadline once we've had a chance to review all applications, and then you'll receive a funding decision within 6 weeks of the application deadline date. Payments. Successful applicants, you'll all then receive a funding agreement from Sunny G, and the grant will be paid in full within 28 days on receipt of the signed funding agreement. And we'll also ask you to complete a short feedback and evaluation form toward the end of your project to help us develop similar opportunities and also improve what we do as a fund. Again, Steg's kind of gone through this, but you can apply by emailing your application no later than Thursday, the 17th of November. Just make sure it's got the subject line Scottish Hip Hop Bursary application, and then you can attach files or again include links, and then you'll receive confirmation from Sunny G within 5 working days. That's almost everything. I think I've already covered alternative formats. Obviously, this information session will be available after this, so you can go back. And also, if you need to contact us about any kind of access support that you might need to apply, then you can just get in touch. That's everything from me from the guidelines. So I think if you're happy, Steg, we could move to what often is the most helpful bit for everyone, which is the questions.
Yeah.
I've been taking notes of the questions.
Great, thanks, Mobile.
Emma. If you've got any more questions, put them into the chat. Like, they've actually been really good. The first question is from Daniel asking, is there a deadline for when all projects need to be done for? The way that, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that like it's within a year, more than 12 months of receiving the fund, that your project should be completed, basically. Something to definitely keep in mind as well, though, for the start date of your project, that has to be, you need to keep in mind that has to be the 6 weeks after you find out. It needs to be from the date that you find out. Like, it can't start before you find out whether you've been successful or not.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to add that, obviously, if there are any postponements of projects due to legitimate reasons like illness, obviously this was a fund that was developed in response to, in part, like COVID-19, and that's why we include that as part of the guidance. It's like, as long as you contact us and let us know what's going on with your project, and if you have a delay, that's also fine. But yeah, I'd like, as Mobo said, ideally within 12 months.
The next question is from Connor. Do we need to include pay? Do we need to include pay to ourselves if our project is something that can be done solo? I can take that.
Yeah, go for it, Mobile. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. You have to. You should definitely include pay for yourself, because in the end, you're working as a creative on the project. So I don't know what the project is, but let's say you want to record your solo project. Like, there's so much that goes in within that, like whether that's the writing of the songs, whether that's the research, whether you need to travel to and from the studio. You still need to cover your time as well, even if you need to take time off work in order to be able to do this. So funds like this are definitely there for you to be able to also pay yourself. But it's not a case of like, oh, well, I can make the project for like 500 quid and I'm going to ask for 1,500 and then pocket the other 5,000. Like, it still needs to be accounted for.
Yeah, just to add into that, don't put down like mates rates either. Use the guidelines for rates based on paying yourself and paying everyone. I know that sometimes we feel like we want to just contribute as much as we can off our own back, but this fund's here to support you as artists, so please make sure you cover all costs.
And I think that's also so important, just for your own personal practice as an artist. If you can say that, okay, this is how much it'll cost for your own time. If someone asks you to do the same kind of service in the future, you've already got reference, you know. And yeah, that's sort of the main part. There's a question from Alexander. My project is putting on a night for alt-inspired hip-hop artists in Scotland. I've heard that the funding cannot be applied for in order to make a profit. What do I have to do to meet guidelines? Is free tickets enough, as no profit will be made?
I can take that one if you like.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's in terms of, there's kind of, I think there's kind of a difference between making a profit and making sure everyone in your project is paid. So that kind of falls under the guideline of like, you couldn't come in for a business proposal, because obviously if you're going to have excess profit to things that you're running, that kind of means you've made a profit of public funding, which is just something that you're not allowed to do with national lottery funding. But what you can do is come in for something with ticket sales and show in your budget that all that money, if you do have ticket sales, is being paid back into the project, i.e. it's paying all the artists, it's paying yourself. So I think it's actually just like a slight confusion around the definition of like profit, because if you'll see in the application form, we've got our income and expenditure. So as long as your expenditure and income are equal, i.e. you don't have like an excess amount of income, then that's absolutely fine. And what that would mean is you'd make sure that that money you do make from tickets goes into paying you as the producer, it goes into paying the artists that you've got performing, and it goes into other costs like equipment and materials. That might mean that you come into us, say, for less money because you know that you're going to have this income from tickets. But it definitely doesn't mean, the other option is, as you said, you could put on a free night, that's completely fine. Or you might think about doing a sliding scale so that people with different incomes can access your event, regardless of their own situation. That's something that I would definitely say would be a positive approach. But yeah, it's just about balancing your budget so that your income doesn't massively exceed your expenditure, and that money that you do make goes back into paying yourself and paying others.
Jenny, see, in a case where there's a surplus of profit, would they then be able to use that profit and use that for the next event? Like if they want to do another event, or is that sort of?
Yeah, I mean, ideally what we'd want them to do is predict, like specifically in this budget, how much they might make, like, you know, put in their kind of maximum. Otherwise, if they're looking at like a program of events, that's fine, but they'd need to explain that in the application form. They just can't like have an excess of budget and then just keep hold of that and not be putting it back into creative practice. It's just one of those specific guidelines from National Lottery funding that applies to all creative projects that Creative Scotland funds in all of its funds. But as long as you're reinvesting that money into artists and yourself as an artist to continue to work, then that's okay.
Mm-hmm. No, that's solid. And yeah, with events, once you go through the different guidelines of what you should be paying people as well, from photographers down to videographer, down to anybody that's going to help you with the event, you're going to realize that it is quite expensive and making a profit is pretty difficult. So I think running through the numbers and yeah, going along with the guidelines for the numbers will help.
And I'd say as well, keeping in mind that, you know, you put in a fee for yourself. So that idea of profit, like you are making money from it because we do want you to receive an artist or producer fee. It's just that then in excess of that, you can't make more funds. So I know last year we did see a couple of event nights where the person actually hadn't paid themselves, but then when you balance their budget, it looked like they'd make a profit. And it's just about actually like declaring, no, this would be my fee. And yeah, hope that helps.
The next, I'm on mute. The next question is from Chair. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Apologies if I'm not. Hi there. May you please go a little more in detail of what the role of a mentor is and what it would entail on both sides?
A mentor is going to give you professional support to help you navigate through the system. Somebody's got me on and I'm hearing myself back and I sound like a dialect there. That's fine. Mentoring will give you an hour with a professional in the industry, maybe someone who's got expertise in the nature of your project to support you to develop that project a little bit, maybe point you in some positive directions to positive destinations, a little bit of signposting as well. So that the mentoring thing's a great opportunity. Even though I'm one of them, but I feel that if I was applying, I would certainly take up that opportunity too, because we've got experience in the industry, and if you're a new artist, I feel like it's a vital resource to tap into as much knowledge as possible.
Yeah, I fully agree, Steg. Over the years, I've had so many mentors in so many different ways as well, and the main thing that I've gained from it is, first of all, having access to their network. Oftentimes, if you want to know something, or if you want to get access to someone, even if they don't know that information directly, they'll know someone that will. And I think getting into the habit of sort of, building relationships with people and also looking at them as people that are going to mentor you over the years is definitely something that people should be doing. As much as this is an hour session, the good thing with this as well is that like it's been provided in kind by the Hip Hop Fund. So it's definitely something that I'll tap into. I hope that answered the question. The next question is access support. I think this was spoken about already. And that question came in before Jenny got into the access support part.
I can see also that Mr. Cotner has then written below that that's been answered. So I think that's fine.
Okay. Another question, Mr. Faz. What is the principal focus of your application? Could you please further explain what's meant by professional development, residency, and research? From a perspective of professional development, that can be many things. From a perspective of an artist, this can be things such as writing sessions, singing class, like singing training, vocal training, I guess. That can be you maybe doing, those are actually, Jenny, could you take that one so that I don't get this wrong in regards to the professional development? Thank you.
No worries. I mean, that's absolutely right. In terms of the professional development, that can be a specific skill development. So as Mo said, that might be vocal training. It could be like there's a writing course you've seen specific to hip hop or specific to the sound of like poetry and you want to reapply that in terms of hip hop. And as long as you can justify to us how that would contribute to your creative project or your creative practice, that's completely legitimate. There might be specific producing skills you want to work on. You might have identified someone like a producer or a vocalist that you really want to work with and learn skills from them. In that way, it's almost like arranging your own mentor as well as potentially the 1 hour session you have with someone here. You could actually identify your own mentor and include that. So those kind of things would all be included under professional development. And residency and research are a little bit about what I was talking about earlier. But so for instance, if you wanted to develop a new piece of work, but you need that time in the studio to kind of go away and play and tinker and work out what it is that you want to make, that's really, really important in terms of a creative process. We don't just want you to be solely focused on like pumping out outcome. That like development for you to go away is something that you can absolutely come in for. And that kind of comes under research and residency. So residency is when you might go somewhere to actually like do that period of research in your own creative practice. You might go work with a specific studio or you might go stay somewhere that's offering a creative opportunity. But you can also do that in your own space or in your own studio. It's whatever you want to do. It's just that focus on your professional development and that really important part of the creative process, which is that experiment part, which is like the fun bit. So we want to just help you do that really.
Just to add to that question, Jenny, so from the perspective, actually, no, I'll ask the question at the end. We'll just go through these and then I'll ask the question at the end, actually, sorry. There's a question from ES, or sent to me directly. Is there any possibility of getting radio play off using this grant or even a push once the project is out of her hands? So radio play, that goes on the marketing, I would say, and I wouldn't necessarily use the whole fund in order to, I don't know whether you mean to pay a radio plugger in order to like then take your records and try and plug on different radio stations. I don't think this fund is necessarily for that. If you can make a good case as to maybe you creating a record and then a portion of that fund, of that grant is then going to be used for marketing, then yes, maybe. However, I would not necessarily apply for, I wouldn't look at the Hip Hop Bursary grant as something to use specifically just for marketing.
Can I jump in there a little bit as well? Mo was 100% right with that. But yeah, there's avenues for radio exposure. Sonny G Radio being one of the partners of the Scottish Hip Hop Bursary. We have 3 weekly hip hop programs that promote Scottish hip hop. So make sure that you keep us up to date with your projects, like we ask in applications. So please let us know when you get your music done, send it to us, get it out there, and it will get some play, as long as you cut out the dodgy spell words for FM radio, please.
How does that, is this something that artists and creators pay for? That service?
No.
Okay.
It's a free, it's part of what we do for the community. We want to provide a platform for artists, and we've got a particular focus on hip hop artists.
Amazing. Just because we're speaking about Radio Play there, and because I had mentioned Radio Pluggers, yes, there's loads and loads of amazing platforms that actually do just as Sonny G do, where you can deliver your music, submit your music for free. I think just from a manager's perspective, the thinking that a radio plugger can get your music to the world is, I don't want, it isn't necessarily the only route that you can go. I think too, you'd rather look at more stations like Sonic Govern and even BBC Introducing and stuff like that, rather than paying someone to plug your music, because you don't ever get a guarantee of what happens with it.
Yeah, and I feel that'd be a big chunk of your budget to a marketing company, and I don't think we look that good on a funding that had the majority of its fund to a marketing company. So, any other questions there, Mobile?
Yep.
Yep,
good. My plan is to make a question from Connor.
Okay.
My plan is to make a project of instrumental beats that once released will be free for non-profit for vocalists to use. I don't want to pay myself. I just want the funds to help with certain things related to the project. But I plan to make no money, just good art. So you want to make the instrumental beats. I would recommend to pay yourself for your time as well. Even if you can also, let's say, this is me just throwing numbers out there. Let's say you're charging £100 an hour in order to make beats normally. You can say that well, you'd only charge £50 an hour and you're doing the other 50 in kind, although I wouldn't, we do want to encourage you to look at putting budget aside for your own time to create.
Yeah.
Steg, there's a question for you regarding radio play through Sonny G. What about songs that contain uncleared samples?
That's totally fine. We pay a license fee to PRS and PPL every year so we can play copyrighted material. It just means that if you sample Elton John will get the PRS royalties, and unfortunately you won't. But you'll get the airplay, it'll be your name on the record.
Thank you, Steg.
You're welcome.
Can PRS registration be applied for in the fund? It is part of, yes, I would say so, because it's sort of part of your professional development. You do want to sign up to PRS so that you can actually in the future start making money from your music. So yes, and the PRS, if you haven't signed up to PRS as a musician, I'll definitely recommend it. It's £100, and you will recoup the money over the years to come. It's definitely, yeah. Could you confirm that, Jenny and Steg?
Yeah, PRS is £100 to join for a lifetime membership. It might take you a little bit of time to recoup if you're a new artist, but it's certainly worth doing. It's an investment. And once you get your PRS membership, that will encourage you to make sure your music gets played in radio stations to get some royalties. It's very motivational being a member, so I would encourage you all to join.
Yeah, and just to confirm, that's completely eligible, as Mobo said, as long as it's kind of part of your creative project and you can sort of write about it being part of your creative development. But obviously, we'd kind of know why, so that's fine.
Mm-hmm. Are there any other questions before I ask one? So I'm just being like full angel advocate here. So like from the perspective of someone who doesn't actually create music, this fund is, no, it's more statement. So like this fund isn't just for people who create music, as Steg had said earlier. It's also for people who maybe want to work within theater and that as well. The question I guess I want to ask is from a manager's perspective, like being an artist manager, if there's any other artist managers that want to apply, like would that be mainly for artist development? I mean, for professional development they can apply for, or more like maybe putting on an event that showcases the artists that they're working with, or are those possibilities? Like, is there something that would be accepted by the Hip Hop Fund?
From my perspective, absolutely, yeah. Because it's like you're working as a producer or curator within the sector, so that's absolutely legitimate. And yeah, you could come in for an event, you could come in for professional development. It's, you know, we need artist managers just in the same way that we need artists, and the way that, you know, the upstandard work, for instance, is very like collaborative. It would be about professional development. Obviously, I'm not saying that you're going to apply because you're a partner on the fund, so that would be interest. But to use that example, yeah, absolutely. It's not just for like artists, it is also for producers, and like you said, for theatre makers, for writers, for dancers. There's and we've had like filmmakers come in before who are working with multiple artists and dancers, but in that instance they're kind of directing a full project. So yeah. Steg, unless you have anything you want to add to that?
No, not at all, Jenny. Just totally agree with that. It's not just necessarily for the front-facing artists, but the behind-the-scenes teams, whether it be the managers, whether it be if you're a person who records everyone, you're the engineer in the studio. Yeah, you can apply. Is anyone else on the call want to have a little chat? A question without writing it in the chat? That'd be okay, I guess.
I can see also there's one more question in the chat, and also just to say we're nearly at the end of our time, I think, as well. So that's just something to be conscious of. But obviously, if anyone's got a question they actually do want to say, please do join us. But just to read out, I think actually Mobo and Steg, you could probably take this one. But this person said it's kind of unrelated to the fund, but are there artist management groups and booking agents involved in the Scottish hip hop scene?
Not a lot, unfortunately, and that's why I feel like it's good that this fund will support artist management and encourage that as well, because that is a very important aspect that's missing in hip hop in Scotland, the infrastructure behind artists. So yeah, let's encourage more of that.
Yep, definitely. I run an artist management company. It's very small scale for artists. And when it comes to booking agents, there's a few, but as Steg said, like through this fund and through encouraging more activity, that is also funded and provides people with the support to actually deliver the projects. We hope that over the years that like there will be more artist management companies and more booking agents because the demand is there, you know. So yes, Faz, if you are thinking about starting a management company or a booking agency, we are fully here for it. And yeah, man, shout me. I'm always here to talk.
Yeah, same.
And just to clarify, though, in the terms of that, in the context of the fund, you could come in freelance as an artist manager who wants to run a specific creative project, but obviously you can't, as we've said, come in for kind of those initial business costs for sort of setting something up, and you can't come in as an organization. But absolutely, we'd all really want to talk to you about your plans. It might just be in a slightly different context than something like this fund. Any other questions?
The only other piece of advice that I would really give is to just start with the application. Like just chip away at it every other day if you've got the time. Don't leave it till last minute. Sleep on it. Go back to it. Always helps. And you can also still get in touch via the same email if you've got any questions. It is, can you confirm the email again, please, Steg?
Yeah, it's Hip Hop Bursary at sunnyg.org. Hip Hop Bursary at sunnyg.org. And as Mobo says, well, if you need any advice or you have an issues with accessing the application, or you need any support that way, just please get in touch. Don't leave it to the last minute, because I often do that in life and I have a panic. Just chip away at it, like Mobo says. I'm conscious of time at the moment, Jenny, Mobo, and everyone, and unless anyone else has got any final questions, we'll draw this info session to a close. But like I say, you can always email us or speak to myself, Mobo, or Casey, if you need any advice or information.
And we're looking forward to reading some of the applications. It was so much fun last year, and yeah, expecting to see some really great work.
Yeah. Great. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. It is really appreciated. Good luck with your applications, and we look forward to seeing you all in the very near future. Okay, folks, thank you very much. See you later.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.